Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Despite OpTic's emphatic victory at Major 1, Scump does not believe they played anywhere near their potential, saying they could have 5-0'd FaZe in the grand finals and praising Dashy immensely for his massive turnaround in maturity since the start of the year. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel, thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, loads of roster stuff to dive into because a lot of teams have kind of been making changes, some of which have been, well, unintentional, right? As in they still want to keep their starting team but are unable to do so for certain reasons. We'll look here at what Minnesota and Paris are up to in a second, but firstly looking at London. We looked a few days ago that Gizmo, after going out to the event, a very impressive event for London all things considered, establishing themselves really as the third best team in the game behind FaZe and OpTic, the team really that competed the best with those two top dogs right now, and Gizmo was nowhere really near the level that he was performing online when he went to LAN. In fairness though, he was playing against the best teams of the game, like a series against OpTic and FaZe is generally going to hurt your statistics, but I mean still, he wasn't maybe quite as dominant, and we saw like he had a few words to say after the fact that he was kind of struggling with some personal issues and stuff. And Royal Ravens say yesterday, welcome back Paul X to the Ravens. Paul was on the Ravens last year for a brief period of time. He actually looked like their best player for a time. Like you guys remember, like he had some crazy checkmate controls towards the middle part of last year. He's now going to be returning to the team for the near future. Quite interesting actually, just because there was some talk about, okay, if New York subliners are making a roster change and let's say they drop Claystar, bring Crim6 to the main AR and bring back Neptune, they might need a flex player to step into that role. Paul X was kind of one of the guys discussed as a possibility there. Now, well, it seems like he's going to join Ravens on basically a 2-week contract, so there's a thing in the CDL you can sign players for just 2 weeks as a substitute, a temporary replacement. That's what they're going to do here with Paul. So honestly, I wonder what this will do to the team. He was in the roster briefly last season, so at least the organization is familiar with him as a player, and I think he'll be a pretty good kind of plug and play into the role. Of course, he's going to have a tough time replacing Gizmo, but this is what Gizmo had to say a few days ago about it. Family member gets diagnosed with cancer, little brother collapsed and had a fit, literally throwing up blood at the event. So like Gizmo really had a torrid time this past weekend. Very impressive, still managed to get the result he did, and it seems that he's going to fly home for a few days just to deal with the personal issues that's going on right now. So hope everything works out for the best for him and he can get out very soon, because the intention is for the London guys that only this week of matches he'll be able to miss and he'll get back out to the States very soon. As Dominate says, their coach, welcome Paul back to the squad. Glad to have him with us. He's someone I could trust to compete at this level in such short notice. In regards to Joey, that being Gizmo, he'll be back better than ever for next week's games. Health and family always comes first for us. Make sure to show support. So good to see that everyone is confident he's going to be back in business. As Crone says as well, they've signed Paul X on effectively a 2-week contract, ideally just for this week's game against New York, and then Gizmo is expected to return for next week's matches. Of course, that's pretty key, right? They need to have their full strength roster in force. Like, their set of matches aren't maybe the hardest compared to some other teams, but I mean, still, like, if 5 games online, anything can happen. You need to go at least 3-2 to qualify for winners, and at that point, you can still make a run, as they managed to pull off this time around as well. Let's talk about what Minnesota Rokkr are up to, because there's been so much talk lately, especially after coming top 8 of the major, that, okay, maybe they need to do something in terms of roles, just because attach, I think, and we saw this last weekend, Scump, for example, when he pulled out an auto on Guerrillas hardpoint, he was out of control. He went like 33-14 against FaZe or something crazy. Like, and we kind of seen that with attach as well. When he has an AR in his hand, he actually looks better. We've said for so many years, honestly, that attach should be on an AR. Like, he just seems more suited to that kind of slower, more methodical role, that in this game seems to work very well on an AR. Now, still, you've got MajorManiak as your main AR, attach now as the flex, it seems, and Priestahh are going to be stepping into that kind of, well, fast SMG role, and honestly, I think maybe even Priestahh as an entry SMG, like he used to be back in the Black Ops 4 days on 100 Thieves, that could work better with Standy right behind him, but who knows what they want to do. I do wonder if this is still going to work. I think it's probably a good idea at least to try this out for a few matches. I think there was some rumours from Brian Tate that they tried it out in scrims for a few days, didn't really work out for them, but they have now decided to make this switch slightly more permanent, it seems. I'm still not convinced the pacing on this team is going to be great and is really going to work out that well. I do wonder if at some point or another, you have to think about the ARs once again on this team, because a lot of other rosters, like if you look at the successful teams right now, they have very quick assault rifles in general, and they don't really have, like, MajorManiak, people call him a bit of an iron boot sometimes, right? He's going to sit back and relax a lot of the time. Like, even with attach now as the main AR, if anything, it could even exacerbate the problem if attach starts playing a little bit slower. The SMGs are still quite quick. I do wonder if attach even becomes the main AR at some point in the future and they bring in another player instead of Maniac. That's maybe a long-term hot take, but maybe the way the meta is played over time will change and it will make that kind of idea irrelevant. This also from the Paris Legion, confirming yesterday that Fellow is going to be gone from the Legion. Kind of surprising to me the way that Paris Legion do this, to be honest. They don't bother keeping any of these guys around on the sub bench. I'm pretty sure, like, the contracts aren't necessarily guaranteed as they used to be. Like, if you were signed as the start of the year on the starting team, like, and they just want to cut you, you don't necessarily just get your salary guaranteed for the rest of the season. So effectively, instead of them actually, well, keeping these guys on the sub bench, they just cut them straight off the face of the earth. Like, Decimate and Fellow are just fully out of of there. They've got rid of both of them. They've brought in Gravity, of course, as now the main AR on the team. Jimbo, it seems, is going to be the replacement to Felony. Quite an interesting decision really for them to make, like not keeping any of these guys on the sub bench even, just in case you wanted to bring a guy like Fellow back. I guess theoretically they could do, right? He's probably not going to get an opportunity elsewhere. He was solid, but I think honestly, Paris, I don't mind them going for an upgrade like this. It's at least worth the go given where their team is currently right now and what potential they still have going forwards. Let's dive into the OpTic stuff then. So we of course talked about their victory this past weekend. Very impressive victory on the whole, but I was really impressed honestly by the attitude displayed on this podcast. Really great kind of view behind the scenes into Rambo's mentality. But like he's not taking any BS this season, and it seems like that's really helped the team come around. Especially because his mentality is like, this is good practice. It's kind of what CleanX said kind of famously. I think it was Orlando or something, or it was some event in Black Ops 3 towards the ends. Like they just won that event, and like Champs was next up, and basically they just won it. He was holding the trophy, and he said something like, this is just practice for the big one. Of course, they didn't end up winning the big one and a few weekends later, but still, the kind of mindset and the attitude there was pretty impressive, I thought, at the time. And just what they have to say on their performance this weekend, I thought was pretty incredible, right? Not only the Illy stepping up massively, Shotzzy, of course, was on the podcast as well, but just the fact that Rambo and Scump believe they really didn't play as well as they could have done this past weekend. We talked about this a few days ago, that Shotzzy, like, it was actually somewhat inconsistent this weekend, but even just as a team as on the whole, like in the grand finals, like they feel like they didn't really play at their potential. Of course, their search and destroy for the entire weekend was super good, but then when they got to the grand finals, they lost both search and destroys until the final one they won on Berlin, and even that they they had a significant advantage. They could have thrown it away, right? There were a few advantages they had in the search and destroys against FaZe in the grand finals that they let kind of slip through their fingers. So Scump reckons they could have 5-0'd FaZe in the finals, which is quite the statement, right? If they didn't kind of get too ahead of themselves in certain situations. And also they go on to talk about the fact that Dashy, like just how far he's come as a player over the last 12 months, like kind of confirming what we've talked about in the past, that like Dashy's, his attitude maybe wasn't the best in certain situations, the maturity wasn't quite there, but with Rambo coming in, and he seems to be a completely different player, not just with the ability to drop 1.3s, but also to be a kind of leadership figure on the back lines of the team.
It's just, we still have stuff to work on. We won, and I don't personally think we played that. Like, we played well enough to win, but I don't personally think we played our best. Not even close to, if you really ask me.
Yeah.
Take on that?
Huh? No, I don't think we played our best.
Yeah. Just making sure.
I think we could have 5-0'd the finals.
Yeah.
We through the siege, because we got too ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And
then we win 3. We won map 3, which was Gav control.
We
right?
lost 2 SNDs.
We lost the Tusk, and then the Tusk we 6-0'd him, and we just didn't play as a team.
Didn't we go up in the Tusk too and throw it?
No. Kind of, but we just didn't play. We didn't play as a team. We didn't do like.
We were up like 3-1.
Really?
Yeah, you're a good coach.
That's a good
Might be
guess.
goaty coach. But no, going back to Brandon, I did want to say that guy has matured a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Last year, oh my God, I couldn't pay him to be on time.
Yeah.
I couldn't give him an extra $20,000 a month to be on time.
I feel like we've set the tone that like as soon as the team was formed, though, from the very start, we had that call, and I told everyone, bro, I wasn't dealing with no bull crap after what me and Ant deal with last year with situations within our team, and the fact that I heard your situations were somewhat similar. Like that was I would not want to work with a player having that kind of effect on the team and just.
Well, I had faith in him. Obviously, we wouldn't have brought him back to the team if we didn't have complete faith in him to be focused. And I had complete faith in him. And he's honestly surprised me because I thought it was going to be more of a process, like a longer, just like a longer period. But he instantly matured. Yeah, instantly.
I'm not giving him a chance, to be honest.
No,
I'm not giving him a chance
he's
to
actually
be off the ball.
He's been on top of his. He was the MVP for our team, undoubtedly.
For sure.
And not even just like his raw gun skill. He's just playing disciplined COD, and he's actually been listening. And like in scrims, if we're doing something wrong, like
he's speaking his mind.
Yeah, he speaks his mind, and he like gets mad. He's like,
no,
why are we doing this?
No, 100%. No, I feel like he's
rotating.
Out of like all the time someone's been like pissed about something going on, I feel like he's been the one the most, and that shows passion and power. And
oh no, for sure.
And he has that effect to get things done on a team. Like I can't be more excited about the potential this team has going for the future forward. Not even just this season, but just in the future.
I thought it was also interesting what Rambo had to say, just because, obviously he'd heard about what was going on internally with OpTic last year, with Dashy not turning up on time, and Scump definitely says, you could pay him an extra $20,000 a month, and Dashy still wouldn't have been there to scrims on time. This year, a very different story. And Rambo and Shotzzy, who were, of course, last year on the Dallas Empire, said they basically experienced the same thing, but from the CleanX side, right? CleanX and Dashy last year were considered the 2 biggest time torches in the league, and now CleanX has the one who isn't on this roster, Dashy seems to have turned his ways around quite significantly, and Rambo clearly was getting very frustrated with that. Like, Shotzi nearly decided to go with Dashy as opposed to Crimsix on this new roster when the merger went down, because they're frustrated with Crimsix because of wasting all this time last year, it seems. Dashy, they had confidence, Scump had confidence, he could turn his attitude around, as has happened pretty much overnight at the start of this year, and that's turned this team around massively, right? That was kind of the concern last year, right? Like, last year's team had certainly their talent. Did they put in the work all the time? This year's team seems to have the perfect mesh of both worlds, but also it seems like they're never satisfied, right? Like, I feel like last year's team, if they made a grand finals or something, they'd have been like, okay, this is okay, decent progress, but Rambo's got that mentality, like, it does not matter unless we win champs. Like, this is good, nice to see that the process is working out right. Winning this event past weekend is pretty good, shows that we're kind of coming in the right direction, but still, we're not playing anywhere near our level, and, you know, the goal at the end of the day is to win the World Championship and to win every single event along the way. So, you know, to not get satisfied at all, very impressive mindset, I thought. I think these guys are not going to slow down one bit for the rest of the year, and if Dashy is this kind of changed man as Scump believes him to be, and certainly he seems to be so far, that is probably going to be the catalyst to the roster, right? Because last year there were so many kind of caveats about the way the team was formed, about Dashy's attitude and whether Envoy goes on too many flanks. This year there really isn't any caveats to the success of this team, and even the fact that they could have 5-0'd FaZe in the grand final, says Scump, is quite the statement, no doubt. This, of course, was the reverse sweep series, but even in the grand finals, OpTic won all the respawns and just lost the search and destroys, and both of those search and destroys they had an advantage in the grand finals, and they kind of squandered it and threw it away. They managed to close out the Berlin, but they're thinking it could have been more convincing, and that's really an impressive attitude, because I think a lot of teams, when they win, they kind of, you know, if you win a series, you're more likely to kind of look over the mistakes you made, right, and say, okay, well, it doesn't really matter, we still won. But it doesn't seem like the OpTic guys are doing that. They're looking at all their mistakes this year and thinking, okay, you know, can we be perfect? Which is the goal. I think Rambo even said the other day that he reckons they'll have reached their limit when they win an event without dropping a map, which you know, is quite the statement, to be honest. This then, just speaking of OpTic before we close out the video, this is their match schedule for the upcoming stage. This is Major 2, the qualification matches starting here on Friday. This weekend they play one game up against Thieves on Sunday. That's not going to be an easy one, but the search and destroy should go in their favor. Then they play Seattle, Florida, Los Angeles Guerrillas, and Atlanta FaZe. So definitely not the easiest run in the world. You'd think that against Seattle, Florida, and Los Angeles Guerrillas, they should be able to get the job done and get 3 victories there at least. These other 2 series I think are more difficult, especially the final one. FaZe, I'm sure, are going to be coming for revenge, but I think their schedule could probably be marginally worse. And just to finish out with this, on this day back in 2014, yesterday of course now, Strictly Business 1 goes to US Regionals. Here's Doug Sent to Martin. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us your YouTube gods this is a good video, and as like you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.